with him becoming such a bully.
You taught me everything?
Everything. It only took me a minute to tell him everything I knew. So anyway, I just want to, on a personal side, my wife and I've been talking, and she's told me a couple times, she says, tell him what you did to me. Tell him what you did to me. And so it's the time that I left her. It was last fall. We were riding up to see Bob Mullick was an Eston man who we had gotten very close to. He was on the clock with cancer. His time was running short. So we rode up together. She wanted to see him before he passed. And so we rode up together, and it was an extremely hot day, and we came through Swift Current and came north. And she was starting to fade. She like with her thyroid out, she doesn't handle heat well. It kind of starts to knock her out. She said, gosh, Dale, I feel like I'm going to fall off the bike. So we need to stop. So we pulled into Elrose. There's a little pub there and restaurant. You have to say that when you're a Christian. It's pub, restaurant, you know. So we pulled in, and we were kind of taking a break, and we had some sandwiches that we packed up, and we couldn't eat them in the building, so they made us eat outside, which we felt was kind of insulting. But anyway, so we're finished our time there, and we're going to leave and head for Eston. So I got the bike fired up, and she's not very big, and she's ridden all her life, so I don't even know when she's on or off. She's never a fuss. So I got the bike running, and she did up one of the, she noticed the saddlebag wasn't done up, so she got on, sort of got one leg over, then she stepped off and went, oh, I didn't know she got back on. I just drove away. Seriously. And she's like, she said, I'm standing in the parking lot, I'm like, what are you doing? And she said, I was worried somebody would come out and see me standing there and think we had a fight. So I went up to the highway where it turns left to go into Eston from the main highway. And I went about 3 clicks down that highway, and I reached around to give her a little pat on the bum like I always like to do. This is a true story. I had passed the van, just given her, I passed the van. And then I realized she was gone, so I quickly hit the brakes and pulled onto an approach to go back. I thought she fainted and fell off. And the van guy, when he went by, he slowed down. Is everything okay? He saw her fall off. I'm going back up. I'm in tears. I'm scared to death. I'm thinking she's going to be badly hurt. I'm looking in the ditches. And I get all the way back to the other highway and turn south toward Elrose, and I can see her standing on the highway at Elrose. So it gets worse. We made the mistake of telling some Eston people what had happened. So Lord Johnson, if you don't know him, he's a bit of a character. So I tell him the story. So he says, so you're telling me, Pastor, that you stopped at the pub, and then you got on your bike and drove away and left your wife standing in the parking lot. That's what you're telling me. And it just got worse and worse and worse. We went to church that Sunday. When we went out to get on the bike to go home, there were stickers on the bike. Don't forget your wife. Check the back seat, you know that. Thanks a lot. So I just a word to you, wise, if there's anybody from Eston here, keep an eye on them. You're not always good people. No, we rode a lot of miles together. I just want to tell you about two of our rides. In 2002, we were in Eston pastoring, and Pat was on her computer, and she saw this ride being advertised in America called Torches Across America. You can still get it on Google if you YouTube search it. A Christian man from Branson, Missouri, organized a ride from San Diego to New York City to be at Ground Zero 1 year after 9/11. And his purpose for the ride was to honor Christian firemen that were killed when the towers came down. And so he had a big signage all made up. He had a motorhome. He had this big trailer that he would pull this roll-out sign with the name of everybody that died when the towers went down and in the airplanes. And so Pat saw that and she said, we should go. We should do this. I thought, okay. And I'm thinking financially, like, ooh. So we phoned and registered online, I guess. And then he phoned me. Gary Covert was his name. He phoned me and he said, I'm the leader of the bride. He said, I live in Branson, Missouri, and I see that you're a pastor. Yeah. And he said, would you consider being the chaplain for our ride? And I said, are you kidding me? Like, sure. I don't know what that exactly means, but yeah, okay. He said, if you will do that, I'll pay all your expenses. I'm just like, what? And sure enough, he did. He booked all of our hotels all the way across. We rode in 9 days, we rode from the West Coast to New York City. There was kind of a road race, and we had services all along the way, where we would have like memorial services at, we call them Legion Halls up here. They call it something else down there, Vets Association or something. And there were police departments and firemen would be in these big services all the way across. Spent part of a day in Branson, Missouri. Anyway, then we got to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and he was in contact with the officials in New York City, and they said because of security concerns, you can only send in 5 bikes. And then the rest can come later in the day, but in the morning only 5 bikes can come into the city. We're going to be shutting everything down. So we picked Pat and I and 4 other bikes to go in, to be there on a special moment. So we got up at about 3 or 4 in the morning and rode like crazy all the way to New York City from Harrisburg. And it was pretty moving, I can tell you. We were walking down, later the day, we were walking down a street coming up to where Ground Zero was. You remember what it was like. It was a pretty sobering event. New York City was shaken by what happened. The people of America were shaken by what happened. And as we're walking up, this is a true story, we're walking, 4 or 5 of us are walking up. We had these t-shirts on, Torches Across America, and these New York workers, they worked, I guess, around the clock trying to clean this mess up, but you can still see the debris. And they said, hey, where are you guys from? New York City guys. And we said, well, we're from Saskatchewan, Canada. You come here to show respect? And we said, yeah, we did. They started crying. That's how they were shaken. It was just, America was kind of on its knees at that moment, and I would pray it happens again. Not the trouble, but they would take their knees again. And then the other one we did, I used to be a fan of NASCAR Winston Cup racing. I was a Dale Earnhardt fan, if some of you ever followed that. And when he was killed, that kind of took the life out of it for me. But I was listening to one of their race day on Sunday afternoon, and one of the Petties, I think it was Kyle Petty, who was also a NASCAR driver, he did a fundraising ride for a kids camp called the Hole in the Wall Gang. It was for some kind of special needs kids in America. And they got a bunch of motorbike guys together to ride, and they sponsored this camp and raised money for it. And I'm sitting there thinking, I knew about Circle Square, I knew Bernie Doan, and I thought, we could do that. So I sent a letter to 100 Huntley Street. I said, hi, I'm Dave Wicks, I pastor in Saskatchewan. I have this idea, would you be interested? But 2 weeks later I got a letter, 2 weeks later I got a letter, this was in the fall of 2003, and they said, yeah, could we fly you down to meet with our leadership? I thought, wow, I felt like a big shot right away, like, well, yeah, I'll try to work it out, And so they flew me down. I met with David Maines and Reynold Rutledge and Norm McLaren, and this younger fellow who was kind of the organizer. And they said, interested. And I said, well, if you can help with advertising and even give me names of churches more towards the eastern side of Canada, I'll set it up. I'll do it. And so we did, and David Maines and Norm McLaren rode all the way across Canada on a motorcycle, each different bikes. We started in Langley, BC, and it was, I don't know how many days. We stopped at every camp. We stopped here at Circle Square, Helker, and all the way across the provinces. We'd stop at the camps and stay overnight if we could, and did all kinds of services and suppers and breakfasts. And I think we raised about $250,000, which they gave to Circle Square. Now that world has changed, as you know, but it was really something to see these camps all across Canada. And there were non-Christian riders joined because it was about kids. They'll do something for kids, you know. And some of them became Christians on the trip. One guy that told me in no certain blankety blank starts with an F words that he's going to be in any stupid church services. So I said, that's fine. At the last service at this Pentecostal church in St. John, Newfoundland, he's up there singing with the choir. Seriously. One of them got led to Christ on the ferry across to Newfoundland, you know. So it's just been great experiences. But that particular summer, if you recall the summer of 2004, it was 21 days from Eston to Vancouver to St. John, Newfoundland. It was 21 days of travel. Huntley Street actually paid the Eston Church my salary for that time that I was away. And out of the 21 days, we were in rain suits for 18 days. I'm rusty still. All right, well, okay, Pat, I've told you how you left me, so we'll move on. I've got some questions for you. Like yesterday, I think I was kind of on the racehorse and kind of getting started, but I would just say that I know at the end, Daryl said there's times for testimonies, but if you could think about it this way, if some of you have some thoughts about how you have worked out having private time for devotions, for time with the Lord, if you could share some of that. Like what works for you? Because that's not easy to do. It's not easy to build that rhythm. But if you've figured out some ways that that's worked for you to coffee on the deck or walk in the park or whatever, early in the morning or late at night, or how do you structure your private time? I have to say that to me, the most important thing I'm saying at this camp is to urge all of us, self-included, to give God, to give Jesus private time where we just sit with Him or walk with Him or whatever you do. Be with Him. And what is this long or this long, it's really not the issue. The important thing is that by spending time with Him, I get to know Him. And I just want to say that saying this in some ways, it's not going to be kind of like all super spiritual, creepy, or just all feelings or something. No. I think we can have a conversation with Him. Now, you're going to hear in your ear Him speaking back to you? Probably not. Maybe in some cases He could. But I think you're going to know when He's saying something to you. And you're even just sitting there in silence together. One of the mystic priests of long ago watched this peasant come into his cathedral every day and sit in the chapel for quite a long period of time. And finally he said to the guy, "Why do you come here? What are you doing?" "Well, I look at him, he looks at me, and we're happy." Can you love Him? Tell Him that in private and know that He's listening? Can He tell you, "I love you," in private? Can you know that in conversation with Him? I believe yes, we can. And I'm just saying, I'm not a mystic, and I'm not a contemplative, but I really want to get to know him. And I think most of us do. We've just somehow gotten trapped in cycles of business. One of the other books he wrote is The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, this Comer that I speak about in this book. Yeah, how do we slow it down and find space? It's the most important thing we can do as a Christian, I'm thinking. Because what Cal said last night about how the church needs to engage, and the church people need to engage in the new church idea of reaching people and gathering people into faith. The more time I spend with Christ, the better equipped I am to do exactly that. Because I can represent him. Because I know him. So the 3 steps in the book. 3 disciplines. 3 goals that we set. Number 1, spend significant time in private with Jesus. Get to know him. Number 2, allow the process that will begin to happen as we spend time with him. And listen, in most of us, this process has been going on for years. And what's the process? He's transforming us from us to him. My old self is being crucified and slowly eroded out, that this new life of Christ can be the predominant force in my life. When people will meet us, they will see Christ. What did Jesus do on the earth? He represented the Father. If you see me, you see the Father. That was his mission. So what did he do? He spent time with the Father so he could represent the Father to us. Now that's our job. We need to represent Jesus Christ to our world. How do we get there? Spend time with him. Get to know him. Study him. Understand the truth about him. Excuse me. And then the 3rd step, and we're two lessons next after this, we're going to be talking about becoming like him. And the final 2 lessons, we're going to talk about how we do what he did. And you may be surprised some of the things that I'm going to say about doing what he did. I will suggest to you even now that loving people is a bigger deal than doing miracles. Just saying. Jesus touched many people that he never did a miracle for. He loved them, and they knew it. So, we'll talk about that. So, today is our second part of being with him. I talked yesterday about seeking the Lord. Part of the journey into knowing him and being with him is actively seeking God. And I'm walking across the campground this morning, I thought, that's easy to say, Dave. What does that mean? What does it mean to seek God? Is he hiding? I think sometimes he kind of is, just for fun, just to make us come looking for him. Hey, hide and seek. Ready or not, here I come. We seek all kinds of things. What do you do when you seek wealth? What do you do when you seek success? What do you seek when you're looking for love? You're pursuing something. God is saying to us, pursue Christ. Follow after him. Find him. Spend time with him. Talk to him. Engage with him. Another word that shows up, and there's more in the book, but the word abide. But make it home. Make yourself at home with him. Sit down in a chair with him, so to speak. Abide. We're so like, okay, 2 minutes, we're on. The next thing. He said, no, just abide. Stay. But it also means walk consistently with me. Don't jump in and out of your faith. Don't be nice person, mean person, selfish, selfless. Abide where you need to be. Stay put. Stay in the healthy zone. Abide with Christ. And he said, you do that, I'll abide with you. And when that happens, your life is going to be fruitful. You will have success when you abide with me and allow me to abide in you. And I can look back in my life and I can think of some of those restless times and times when my inner purity was not where it should be. I know the gentle dove of the Spirit could not abide in that. He didn't leave me and banish me to the netherworld, but he said, I can't work with that. I can't be active in your life when you act this way inside, when you have these issues deep in your heart. I didn't give an altar call, but you're welcome. There's so many cute kids at this camp, it's unbelievable. Have you noticed? They're just too cute. All the grandpas and grandmas are here just, okay, it's not your child. Surrender. Take up your cross. Lay down your life. Pick up your cross. Obey. Be obedient. Surrender your will. Jesus prayed, not my will, Father, but let your will be done. Lay down your strong-willed self and surrender and follow him. It will be the most amazing way to live. It's of vital importance that we know him. If you got your Bibles, I'm going to breeze through some gospel scriptures, Matthew, starting in Matthew and then ending in Luke. And they're well-known passages. You've probably read part of these already, but I want you to review it. I want to throw a curveball at you too. This is going to show up when we talk about doing what he did, but I want you to start thinking about it now, because when I get there, you might go, what? That's heresy. Do you realize that everything Jesus did, some Christian authors said it's because he was the Son of God. It's because he was God that he did it. That's not right. He did it as a man in obedience to God. Here, that was not God showing off his supernatural. He wasn't flexing his God muscles. He was in submission to the Father, and the Father says, I give you permission to do those things. In my name, you do those things. So when we talk about doing what he did, just realize that was a man. He set aside his godhood and said, I'm going to live like a man. We can do what he did and greater things. Jesus walking, this is Matthew 4:18. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew, and they were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come, follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once, they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father, preparing their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat, and their father left the boat and their father, and followed him. Veteran is probably the hub of godly, strong men with an incredible work ethic who succeed in life. One of the comical things I have found is I've talked to some of you I haven't seen for a few years. I say, where are you living now? Where are you living now? And just about without exception, the guy said, yeah, well, I built a house in, yeah, well, I built a house. Yeah, well, I built a house, as if anybody can build a house. Some of us can't build houses. But they just get her done. That was these guys. They were fishermen. They were getting her done. And the master said, follow me. And like when we have altar services at camp, and the evening evangelist is egging us on to kind of give our lives to Christ fully and to follow him and, you know, surrender to his plan for our lives. I'm thinking some of these guys who built these houses, are they going to do that? I know you well enough that if you did hear the call, I think you would. And maybe some of you are going to have to. But he needed these fishermen so he could fish for men. Matthew 9:9, as Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth, despised creature. "Follow me," Jesus said. Matthew got up and followed him. Have any of you watched The Chosen? Have you seen the weird little guy that got playing Matthew? He's some kind of ADHD something or other guy. He's just a different sort of a character. That's Matthew. I'm not sure that's what he was like, but he was somehow different, and he was a tax collector, and he was ripping off his own people for the sake of the Roman government and his own pocket. And Jesus said, "I want you to follow me." What a funny choice. But he did. We have a book in our Bible written by Matthew. It's a pretty thoughtful book, right? Pretty well written. Follow Christ. And what was the following like? They went and lived with him. They spent time with him. They got to know him. And eventually, as you see it, they became like him and began to do what he said that he could do. Luke chapter 6, this is kind of the continuation or the ending of the story in a sense. One of those days Jesus went up, this is Luke 6:12-16. One of those days Jesus went up to a mountainside to pray and spent the night praying to God. There he is again, gone off by himself. Why is he doing that? Because he's about to pick his disciples, or pick his apostles, pardon me. It's going to be an important moment, so what's he do? He goes and prays by himself. When morning came, he called his disciples to him and chose the 12 of them, whom he also designated apostles. Simon, whom he named Peter, his brother Andrew, and James and John and Philip and Bartholomew and Matthew and Thomas, and James the son of Alphaeus, and Simon, who was called the Zealot, Judas son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. 12 apostles, say, give or take, 72 disciples on the day of Pentecost, maybe 120 or some people, we don't know for sure. And here we are today, 2025, following this faith that was started by this handful. Point being, if us, insignificant people living in rural Canada, find our place in Christ and rise up to the task, we can change the world. We can change the world. Do you realize that missionaries from the prairies won chunks of Africa for Christ? People, just ordinary men and women who would follow Christ, got on a boat and sailed across the sea, changed the world over there. Takes us to follow, to know him. The most vital thing is for us to have, for those of us who wish to be a disciple, that we have a deepening sense of really knowing him personally. And this is so much more than head knowledge. I want to focus on a couple of things. I'd like to just take a brief moment and talk about this Jesus that we're wanting to spend time with. And again, this is not going to be anything new to you at all. It'll just be remembered. And that's important enough. So I'm going to look at three simple things. What the Bible does say about what Jesus said about himself. What was his testimony about himself? What did he say about himself to his followers? What did they hear him say about who he was? I'm just going to look at just a couple examples. We're going to look at what some of the people who traveled with him, what did they say about him? And then we're going to look at just a couple brief examples of what's recorded about his life within Scriptures. I'm going to start with the book of John, if you want to follow me in John. I'm sorry, my voice is hoarse. I think it's kind of husky from being such a manly man. that quiet. It's all those fireworks last night. Wasn't that something? Some of those, I love the really loud ones that go bang and then just kind of go off, and then they make all those little weird sounds when they spin off into space. I noticed there was a house burning down the highway there. I heard last year the crowd got shot at. Did you do that, Carl? No. It's pretty bad. It's pretty funny. Okay, Jesus speaking about himself. The classic part of the Gospels, John's Gospel, is where Jesus makes the I am statements. They're famous statements, and it connects to the Old Testament where God says, I am. Just say that I am sent you. He uses that expression. Jesus picks it up. Funny thing about that, must be connected. He said, I am. And he says this, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me and will never go hungry. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. Are you kidding me? Is that some kind of statement or not? Our world is dying because of a lack of inner fulfillment. People are struggling in life because they got a great big empty hole inside their heart and mind, and no matter how much money they've got, what possessions and shiny things they can get, all the sex they can have and all the stuff they can do, it's just this glaring empty space. There's something missing to make them feel satisfied. He said, I'm it. Who am I going to get to know? The one who satisfies the deepest part of every human being. Sounds like a good one to get to know. And I'm speaking to Christians by saying this, but I know enough about myself and the people I've known over the years, and I know a lot of people, even though they're followers of Christ, they forget about that and they start heading towards the next shiny thing. And then they can't understand why they don't have any peace of mind and why my Christian faith doesn't seem to be working. And I'm thinking, you're eating the wrong bread, man. Jesus said, I'm the bread of life. I'm the source of living water. Come to me. So when we think about, should I spend time with Jesus? Yes, because he's this. I'm life. Come and be with me. And I'll breathe my life into you. I'm telling you, on the drive up, and this is not normal experiences for me. I'm pretty conservative. And I'm driving up in my little Mustang with the top down, having a good old time. I'm singing songs that I made up in my head about Jesus. That's not mediocre. That's not normal for me. It's not normal, period, actually. But I'm just doing this. And there was times that I'm sitting there crying in the car because I'm just aware of his presence. He's life. He's life. Where and how you meet with him, it can be as varied as all of us are varied. In your car. One thing about the prairies, you're going to spend time in a car. Right? Well, people drive 100 kilometers to go to work. They do. People drive between Moose Jaw and Regina to work. On the highway of death in the wintertime, by the way. Belle Plaine kills more people, you know. Turn the radio off. My wife, sorry Pat, I got to tell him some bad things about you, but there used to be a guy on Saskatchewan radio called John Gormley. Anybody heard John? Expert on everything, basically an idiot, I think. But, you know, what an awful thing to say, Pastor. Now it's some former city cop in Saskatoon has taken on the role. He's that know-it-all. And she said, or the green zone in Saskatchewan, about the Rough Riders, the green zone. It's all hockey talk and sports talk. She calls them my green guys. I got to turn my green guys off. And I just think, no. So get in your vehicle, shut it off. Shut your phone off. And say, Lord, I got 100 kilometers. And because I'm a Christian, I'm only going 95. So, I take it back. I'm a Christian from Alberta, I'm going 205. What is it with you people? Spend time in the car with Him. Say, Lord, I got time with you. Have I told you today, Lord, that I love you? I want to be with you. Talk to me about me. What do you want to change in my life? Have a conversation. I am the bread of life. Other places, I am the gate. In John chapter 10, verse 9, I am the gate. If you come in through me, you'll be safe. The thief won't be able to get you because he wants to kill you and steal from you and break you and ruin you. But he said, I've come that they may have life and have it to the full. You want to have a full life? You want to have a full heart? Spend time with Him. He'll bring life to you. I'm the good shepherd, verse 11. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. I know some of you well enough, I see the tenderness in your hearts, that even though after all these years, when you've been a Christian for a number of years, you still get teary when you talk about the day when Christ saved you from what you used to be. We need to remember again and again and again, He laid down His life for me. He took my sin onto Himself. Years ago, my wife's father, Pat, lost her first mom. She was 47, beautiful lady, wonderful mom. We had one child at that time. She was grandma to our little, what's now our oldest boy. Lovely lady, died in the middle of night suddenly of a massive coronary, just gone, bang, gone. So Pat's dad remarried another lady, beautiful lady, and great person. And she also had terrible heart problems, and she was going to have major heart surgery. And Pat said, we should drive down to see her. I don't know if she's a Christian. And so we drove down from Eston and got down there, and she said, when it's the right time, I'll get Dad and I'll get him out of the room and you can talk to her. Pat often has done that to me. She'll meet some stranger somewhere who's got a major life problem, and all of a sudden she knows all about it because she's met the stranger. She comes and grabs me and drags her. My husband would help you. He's a pastor. You know, she's just done that time and again. It's very awkward. That's why I left her on the road one day. I just said, I'm done with it. So anyway, I'm sitting with this lovely lady, excuse me, and I said, can I read the words of a song to you? She said, sure. So I started to read the words to the song, How Great the Father's Love for Us. I'm not singing it because that would scare her. So I'm just reading the words, and I came to the line where it says, it was my sins that held him there. And she said, stop, stop. So I saw him, she said, I believe that with all my heart. She died that in surgery. I said to Pat, I said, not to worry. She believed that. We need to consider that when we spend time with Him. Yeah, you did do that for me. You saved my life. I am the good shepherd. Excuse me. I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. When you spend time with Him, just know He knows who you are. He likes you anyway. But He knows you. He knows everything about you. He knows you deeply. That's the one we spend time with. And you can know me. John 14:6 says, I am the way, the truth, and life. No one comes to the Father except through me. It just makes sense to spend time with the one who gets me through it to the Father. I'm that one. What about the people who lived with Him? What did they say? And there's so much you can read, but this is a classic. It's where Peter once again shines, and if you follow the passage further, he shines and then he shoots himself in the foot again. It's just like, Peter, for Pete's sake. Yeah. Anyway, Jesus is curious. He said, what are people saying about me? They're saying, you're the prophet, you're this, this great guy, whatever. And he said, Peter, what about you? Who would you say I am, Peter? And I tried to imagine, have you got a Holy Spirit imagination? I think you do. I've watched Peter preach. He's got an imagination. Because he often says, this isn't in the Bible, but I think. I think he's built us with a creative imagination, and I think, how did Peter answer that question? He didn't go, well, I've been reading Matthew Henry, and I think what you are is actually no. I think it blurted out of him. It bubbled up inside him, and he said, I'm such a wuss, I get all mushy. You are the Messiah. You are the Son of the living God. And Jesus said, you're right. And you know what? You didn't get that from a book. You didn't watch a podcast for that one. You know it in here. Spend time with the one who these people said, we know who you are. Jesus said, flesh and blood didn't show you that, Peter. My Father in heaven, excuse me, did. Sticky. What's recorded about what he did? Two things. I won't read all the passages for time, but I'm going to read the sort of the main one, sort of like the heavyweight kind of comment first, and then come back to the one that just sort of captured me. Luke 23, 33 to 34, Jesus is on the cross, place called the Skull. They crucified him there. If you've seen The Passion of the Christ by, who was the guy that made the movie? Yeah. He's taken a little heat in Hollywood lately, have you noticed? He's kind of doing some Christian stuff, and he's enemy number one. I'm not sure everything there is all like totally accurate, but I think we need to realize just how absolutely brutal that was. I mean, brutal. Viciously, cruelly brutal. So he's being crucified. It sounds like just a simple thing when you say the word crucified. He was beaten, punched, skull pierced, thorns, mockery, heat, thirsty, hungry, tired. The list just goes on. He's all of those things. The thieves are dying beside him as well. And Jesus says, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. That's the one we need to spend time with. The one who says, I forgive. I forgive. I'll touch on that in just a minute again. But here's another one that kind of caught my attention. They're on their way from Jericho on a mission. Familiar passage, Matthew 20, 29 to 34. And these blind guys are calling out. There's a kind of an insight, kind of a micro joke. There's a guy in Moose Jaw who runs a blind company, and he mounts motorcycle tires on the side. He does a good job. It's cheap. I use them all the time. And sometimes I go riding with him. And I say, yeah, I go riding with the blind guy. It's funny. Motorcycle, blind guy, white scene. Anyway, they're yelling for help, trying to get attention. These are street people. These are the people you and I walk by in downtown cities. One of the worst street situations I've seen in my life, worse than Vancouver, Winnipeg. There's a part of Winnipeg near the downtown core. It's hell on wheels, pardon my French. It is. It's hellish. I saw stacks of people mounted 3 or 4 deep early in the morning, just laying that way to keep warm. It wasn't sexual, it wasn't anything. It was just passed out, fentanyl, alcohol. And we go about our business in something like downtown Moose Jaw. There's 147 people in Moose Jaw they classify as homeless. Fentanyl is a drug of choice. You can always tell the fentanyl people they're bent. There's a spasm they get in their diaphragm that causes them to buckle. You see them in an emergency ward. You see somebody sitting anywhere or standing or even walking bent, that's fentanyl. It's a nightmarish, hellish drug. But these people, Maybe you've never said this. I know I have. Don't ask me for money. Go and get a job. You know? The blind guys are saying, Jesus, help us. Jesus, help us. And the crowd says, shh, he's busy. Stop. Here's the beauty of it. Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. Jesus stops. This is the one we need to get to know. He stops. And he says, what do you want me to do for you? They said, we want to be able to see. Done. But to me, the miracle is not, the miracle is obvious, but he stopped. Let's spend time with that one who's got time for us. On the practical side of life, another way we get to know him. Failure. One of the greatest lessons you're going to learn about who he is when you actually really blow it. Now, I know most of you don't ever do that, but I have. One of my worst failures was in my first pastorate in Weyburn, Saskatchewan. We were sent down by Mur Switzer to pastor this church. Pat has never forgiven her for this. We were sent to a church of 5 people. Then one of them passed away. That's 4. And then I pulled this stupid move and insulted one, and there were 3. Who's going to take up the offering this morning? Oh, I see that hand. It was my wife. One of these ladies that were part of our church decided that going and hearing this other group that had come to town to do some special services about the second coming of Christ and so on, that she'd rather go there and hearing my fine sermons and our wonderful worship service with 3 people, 4 people. And so I felt it was my job as pastor to go and sort her out. So one day it had just built up as a brew inside me. I was just angry. I'm going to go with her name. I won't say her name, but she was a dear old lady. I thought, I'm going to go and straighten her out. And I come boiling out of the church, and my dad was working on the picket fence around the church. My dad is a quiet, he's passed away now, but he's a quiet, godly man, typical of farming men all over the prairies. Just a straight up, honest, godly man, quiet, kept to himself. He said, where are you going in such a rush? I said, well, I've got to go sort this lady out, blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, Dave, you can do whatever you want, but I don't think it's a very good idea. And that was my dad's way of saying, don't do it. But I did it. She left the church, she left the Christian faith, she became reclusive and died alone. I went to see her after. I realized the stupid move that I made, but she couldn't receive me at that point. The wound was too deep. So when that began to soak into me, what I'd done, I was ill inside. And I thought, man, what do I do? I couldn't fix it. And so David was just a child then, and so Pat said, would you mind holding the baby and keeping I could run downtown and get some groceries. So I was sitting there holding him, and I'm afraid of God. I'm embarrassed in front of God. I feel ashamed. I feel horrible. And I said, what do you think of me? I actually thought he might strike me down. And I heard this whisper in my heart, what do you think of him? The child you're holding. That's what I think of you. Don't do it again. That's the one we need to get to know. He'll meet you in your failure. The woman who was thrown at his feet because she was an adulterous woman, he forgave her, and then what did he say? Don't do it again. When we fail, we're going to discover some pretty magnificent things about him. In his wisdom and his strength, but also his incredible compassion. I would say also in human suffering. I just finished reading the book of Job. that is one of the worst stories of human suffering you can really read. And he lost everything. Horrible. God found glory in Job's suffering. And Job ended up okay, if you read the whole book. But I would say in suffering, in illness, as a pastor, I've been at the deathbed of people. I've seen people ill. I've seen people broken. I've seen people who are aging. Now it's me, who feel the pain of aging and bodies that don't look right and some of those things. But there we discover something about Christ in the midst of suffering. He suffered. He was perfected, in a sense, if you read Scripture, in his suffering. He allows us to go through periods of suffering because we will learn about him in those moments of hardship and suffering. There was a man in Lucia called Mr. English. Great big tall fellow, older man. Senior in years, he had congestive heart failure. His lungs were not working right. He had COPD kind of thing. Every breath was painful. At first I saw him for 4 weeks before he passed. And he went out of the hospital, but he could carry on a conversation. It diminished, and finally it took his life. But so before that happened, he's suffering, and he said to his family, "Can I go?" And they said, "Yeah, Dad, you can go." And so he's not communicating, he's laying flat, and all of a sudden, he sits bolt upright. This is a true story. He sits bolt upright, and he said, "In the name of the Lord, it's time to go home." Paul. In suffering and death, you will find things about your Savior. And then, of course, in Scripture, we'll stop there. Now, I'll close with this. In this will be the closing of this segment on being with him. And I might hear some comments in a minute here from some of you about it. But we can talk about what we do when we take time with him, whether you read or sing, or there can be many ways you do your approach. It's what you do. But the next major question for some of us is, where are you going to do it? Where do you do it? And the answer is actually very simple, though it doesn't answer all your questions. God says in Matthew 6:6, when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then the Father who sees what's done in secret will reward you. Get some space. Find a space. Get on your motorcycle. Go for a walk. Get on your new electric bicycle, whatever. Get out there and say, "Okay, Lord, I've got time." Mark 1:35, this is Jesus. Very early in the morning while it was still dark, Jesus got up and left the house and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Luke talks about how the crowds are gathering more and more and more, but then it says in verse 16, but Jesus often withdrew to the lonely places and prayed. And man alive, if we live in the prairies of Saskatchewan, there's some lonely places. Find one of them. Whether it's in downtown Calgary, and find a spot where you can be alone. When Jesus was arrested, when he was betrayed by Judas, how did Judas know where to take the arresting party? He knew where Jesus often went to pray. He had a rhythm. Build a rhythm. Find a place. Get by yourself. When you go to prayer, close the door. Jesus again and again and again went to the solitary place. People were looking for him, but he didn't want to be found. Again, hear the cry of Paul. I'm going to close. I want to know him. Please, if you can carry something home, carry this from my heart if I can give it to you. Be with him. Find a space where you can be alone with him. Spend time with him. It'll change your life. Some of you know this, you know it better than I know it. I know you well enough to know. I'm sort of traveling deeper into this journey. Some of you have been there for a long time. God bless you. Share your stories with people. So, Daryl, when we do testimony stuff, can anybody talk about their private place? We got time to do that? Where do you go? Where do you find time with God? So you won't sound spiritually prideful if you say it. Just, I do this. This works for me. What do some of you do? Yes?
Our best time, I believe, is when we're traveling in the vehicle together and we start singing songs and choruses together. And it's just so uplifting.
In their car when they travel, if you drove with him, you'd know you gotta. We know each other. They travel in the car, they sing songs together and quote songs together, and they find a beautiful time with the Lord as a couple. Excellent. Anybody else? What works for you? Whether it's a couple or an individual, what works for you? What do you do? Come on. Don't be shy. Yes?
We read a proverb a day in the mornings.
You read
A proverb a day every morning.
a proverb?
Yeah, we've gone through it once and now we're starting over again.
Wow.
And we read the love part in the Bible. In the back, we read the love part.
Do you do it at home or traveling? Or
Every morning at home.
every morning at home?
And here.
You build a rhythm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to build some kind of practice. That's why it's called practicing the way. Somebody else? What do you do? Yes?
That's just a comment. You guys don't know what we're talking about, but not so much.
I'm not hearing that, I'm sorry.
Not so much what I do, but a comment, just a comment here. Years ago, I was grappling with this, finding time alone with the Lord. It's real time, not just a quick prayer or whatever. And a pastor friend told me, if you study Jesus long enough, you'll realize he spent more time alone than he did with people.
Huh.
But not alone, but with God. And so I started looking at it every scripture. I was like, yeah. Then he went for a night, and 40 days there, and in the desert. And then he was always like, the disciples would wake up in the morning and he wouldn't be there because he'd already be up on the mountain.
Yeah.
He'd be there all night.
Yeah.
And it was a challenge for me. Let's put it out.
Yeah.
Even come close to studying God, right? So,
Thank you. Thank you. So one of the things he said was, a pastor friend said, spend more time with God than you do with people, something like that.
that's the point he was making. Like, you go to all the Bible studies and you
Yeah.
go to people and
Yeah.
fellowship all day long.
Get some time.
It's not going to do the job.
It's brilliant. Thank you. Pastors can be too busy. I've been one, I know. You're at work. You need time with God. Some pastors spend hours studying their books before they get up to preach. Some of the old men of God of the past and women spend time on their knees before they get up to preach. God help us. Anybody else? Yes.
I think for me,
Speak real loud.
I think for me it's just a pretty standard, but it's when we get busy that I struggle to get back into rhythm. And so for me, it's always been since Bible school days when I cross the sign of the town that I'm living in. So once you cross the Eston sign, everything gets shut off and you just sing. That's your, it doesn't matter what, now I'm in Red Deer County, when you cross the Red Deer County sign, everything shuts off. Everybody in the vehicle really makes the prisoners really uncomfortable, but that's what you do. It's no option. And then by not having that option, by crossing that sign, it just starts you back so that you can get back into the rhythm.
One of the, I don't know if I'll get into it in our time, but you have to figure out what kind of person you are. Like if you're a naturalist, you find beauty in being with the Lord in nature. If you are artistic, you may find it with art, or if you are, I forget the language, but if you like to dance before the Lord or worship in rhythms or whatever, you'll find beauty in that. You'll find meaning in that. But I think for many people, it's music. Listening to music. Shane and Shane have a devotional rhythm that you can get on your phone where they just sing songs that are made to lead you into a place with the Lord. So whatever forms, times, places you can use, you have to experiment a bit, but find something that's meaningful, that catches you, and you think, I can do this. Dr. Henry Cloud said, if you lack discipline, build structure. Build a practice. Build a system, so to speak. Anybody else? Yes.
I was
Speak nice and loud.
I was just going to say that I'm glad you said what you said, because we're all different. People will say, well, walking in the park, that's my happy place. Well, I may be trying to talk to the Lord. Oh, there's a squirrel, and I just get distracted.
Yeah.
And I'm also a very intentional, passionate type person in my praying. And I'm also conscious of work and things that have, as a pastor, you have to do stuff.
Yeah.
So I have to be intentional that I'm going to take that time. And I'll use structure in that time. But I also have found, and not everybody is like this, but I can find it, I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and I would love to be sleeping, but I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and I can meditate on the Lord, and I find that's when He speaks to me the most. Sometimes it's a quick little dream. Sometimes it's just like, oh, okay, Lord. Why was I thinking that? It's just amazing. He just says that, And so that's my quiet time, but my prayer time and devotional time is probably more intense and intentional and structured.
Right.
That's for me. That's how
Yeah.
it works for me.
What I said the first morning too is, if you get the nudge, the Holy Spirit nudge, like stop, just pull over, just stop for a second, and He'll meet with you, just spontaneously. It's all good. There's nothing ever wrong here. In the nighttime, He wakes. Somebody may get woke up, and God may say, "Hey, I'd like a little time with you."